All right, we're going.
All right, sounds good. All right, welcome to week 15, the NFL season, the Super Contest and the Circa Millions with the Moops. 2-3 last week. So our total standings for the year, Super Contest were 30, 37, and 3. So we have 31 and a half points. And then for the Circa, we're 29, 37, and 4 for 31 points. Really quick recap of last week. We made some great picks with the Ravens and Panthers. We made some really bad picks with the Bucks, the Titans, and the Giants. Bucks were never in it. Just got the doors blown off them. Giants were within striking distance for a little bit, but you kind of got into like that fourth quarter, and the Eagles just really pulled away. And the Titans, I can't help but feel like the wheels are starting to come off for those guys. Not a good outing against the Jags. So 2-3. Obviously not what we needed, not what we wanted, but could have been worse. So we head into week 15. A few quick trends, seasonal trends. So the underdogs last week were 8-5 ATS. Road teams were 7-6. So dogs on the year 107, 90, and 6. Road teams are 99, 103, and 6. So hovering around 500. Cincinnati has risen to the top. They are 10-3 as the best ATS team. And their week 15 opponent, the Bucks, the worst ATS team. They are 3-9-1. And then three kind of like significant public fades for this week. Only 29% of the public are on the Dolphins, and the Bucks 28% on the Commanders. Home dogs. Did you note those?
We got five of them. So we got Texans plus 14, Bears plus 9, Jags plus 4, Bucks plus 3.5, and then Raiders plus 1. And then we also got 6 teams off bye. 2 of them kind of cancel out. Falcons and Saints both coming off the bye. We got the Bears plus 9 at home against the Eagles, Packers minus 7 at home against the Rams, Colts plus 4 at the Vikings, which we're not going to go over, and then Commanders minus 4.5 at home against the Giants.
Yep. Cool.
One quick thing, since we're going to touch on at least 2 of the Saturday games. In the history of Saturday football for the NFL, road teams are 53, 31, and 5 against the spread. Since 2018, 10, 2, and 3 against the spread, covering by an average margin of about 6.5 points per game.
Okay. Yeah, no, good note. I do like one of the road teams. I don't like the other one that we're going to talk about. Yep. All right, well, let's if you're ready, let's get into it. So as you mentioned, we're not going to touch on the Vikings and Colts game. That's the earlier game in the Saturday slate, and given that it is Saturday morning, that's when we're recording, just due to life schedules. We're just going to skip it since we won't make it. So Vikings Colts is off of our slate. So first game we'll start with is going to be the Browns at home, laying 2.5 against the Ravens. Couple things I noted here: Ravens 10-4, dating back against the spread, dating back to 2015. 6-1-1 in their last 8 road games, ATS versus Cleveland. Baltimore 16-2-1 ATS as underdogs since 2018. That includes being 6-1 ATS in games that Lamar doesn't start. Obviously, Huntley back in at QB this week. Sounds like Lamar's kind of in like a week-to-week situation. And I was looking to, like, I think both of these teams relatively poor against the run. Although the Ravens, outside of one game since 2019, I did go back and look. They've held Nick Chubb to some pretty modest outings, which kind of leads into where I'm leaning, which is similar perspective as last week. My read on this game. We're getting the Ravens with points. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Haven't seen a lot out of Deshaun Watson in that Cleveland offense with him under center. Baltimore, funny enough, I feel like it's easy to forget they're actually still on top of the division, tied with Cincy at 9-4, but they've got the tiebreaker. I like them with the points.
Yeah, I actually agree. So I initially my knee-jerk reaction was to go with the Browns. I just kind of felt like, at some
Yep.
point maybe Deshaun shakes the rust off, anything. But watching him, it really does feel like maybe that's a next year thing. Maybe this is his time. This is almost like his preseason for next
Yep.
year. Like, all right, you've been off for 2 years. Shake off
Yep.
that rust now. Figure that stuff out because he really hasn't looked great.
No.
And he really hasn't provided a boost. I mean, Nick Chubb actually, because I was doing this, I was going through for my fantasy show this week, and one of the teams they have Nick Chubb, and I was looking at it, and he's averaging like 7 points a game in the 2 games since Deshaun Watson's been back. So Deshaun's not providing any boost to that offense. He's not elevating any of these people either.
Well, I think if anything, and I believe I was reading this, they've actually kind of gone to the pass more with him under center. Maybe because they just felt like they had a more competent passing QB. But again, you're talking about a guy who hasn't played in 2 years.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of rust to knock off. And they've just kind of gotten away from like their bread and butter, like run first, pass second. Like, I mean, you think about how dynamic, a locked in Deshaun Watson could be in a run first offense, like, how you could exploit play action with that. But it just feels like they've tried to kind of put the ball into his hands more, which again is just getting away from what they're really good at.
I saw I think the offensive coordinator said that they want to start taking more deep shots with their offense. And
yeah,
initially you hear that and you're like, all right, they want to open things up, but I don't know if they're necessarily well suited to do that right now. I mean, Peoples-Jones is a good deep threat, and then Amari Cooper
yeah,
a good one as well. And Deshaun Watson clearly has the arm talent, but with that rust, that kind of concerns me. And the big thing that really got me to kind of flip, and it wasn't like a strong love for the Browns at all, but that was just my initial reaction. But I read that Stefanski, in the last 20 years, he's the second least profitable coach in division against the spread.
Oh wow.
So he's 4-12 against the spread in division, 8-8 straight up. In December division games, he's 0-3 against the spread. So that kind of got me to flip because, like I said, it's like all I'm kind of betting on is maybe like a small like gut feeling, and I don't even think it's a gut feeling. It's more of just like, all right, when is Deshaun gonna, maybe start looking more like the old him? But then I was like, all right, maybe I should step back. And like even last week, the Ravens were still able to squeak out a win. And that's what I was checking. I was like, wait, didn't they win last week? Because I saw that they were 9-4, and it feels like, maybe the wheels are falling off, but then you're like, wait, but they're actually not.
No, they're not. They're still on.
And the thing is too, so Cleveland, you were talking about allowing a bunch of yards to the run. Cleveland's allowing 128.1 rush yards per game. And for the last 5, they've allowed over 100. And J.K. Dobbins, he looked really good last week in his return. And it looks like maybe he came back a little too early, earlier in the season, and now maybe he's starting to get back to that.
Although I will say it was like, he ripped off that huge run, and he was moving at a good clip.
Yeah.
But it also looked like he wasn't really able to like pick up and bend that left knee. Like the way he was running looked weird. It was something like a lot of people were calling it out, just in terms of like, is something up with his knee? But I mean, it was motoring. It was a very strange thing to watch. But he did look good overall.
Yeah.
So
and they've been able to move the ball effectively on the ground even without him. And of course, a lot of that's probably carried, I'm sure, by Lamar Jackson's stats. But we've seen in the past couple of years they've been able to just kind of bring random guys in, whether it's Devontae Freeman or Latavius Murray or Mark Ingram or any of these guys. Like they can bring them in and they can still be pretty effective on the run.
Yeah.
So I think Dobbins back is only a boost. So I like the Ravens here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Market is alike. Next game, we get the Bills and the Dolphins in Buffalo. Bills are laying 7.5. A ton of snow expected in Buffalo today. Even during this game, I think they were talking yesterday, like people are going to show up to the game, go in and come out, and they're going to have to dig their cars up.
Yeah.
Because that's how much snow is going to come down.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I mean, it seems to me like Buffalo, the NFL, like they gotta figure this out. This is now 2 times in the last month.
Yeah.
I feel like they've just created a disaster of like a logistical situation for the teams, for the fans. Like, I don't think they're moving it at this point. Like everybody's there.
Yeah.
But it's like, how are you not planning better for these things? I don't understand it.
Yeah.
The numbers do not favor Tua in the spot. I know, there's been a lot from the Dolphins, like, was it Mike McDaniel's walking around with a shirt about like, I love the cold or
Yeah,
something.
make it colder, I
Yeah.
think it's a
Yeah. Tua saying, oh, I played in Alabama, like, we get snow there. He's 1-3 straight up, 0-4 against the road in the second game of a road trip, and he has never played a game below 32 degrees. It's going to be 28 there. Josh Allen on the flip side, 7-3 against the spread in December since 2020, the most profitable QB in that spot. Look, it's going to be a shit show there. I I just don't see how that Dolphins offense has the ability to thrive in those type of conditions. I just don't. Um, and maybe like I just have a massive blind spot. I don't know. I'd love to hear your read on this game, but if we're gonna take a side, I feel like you have to take the Bills.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm slightly on the other side actually. I think it's too many points because I think this could be I feel like it's either going to be a low scoring game. It depends on what the snow is going to be like really
Yeah,
during the game, right? Because there's
yeah,
always I feel like so often we see these things where it's like so hyped up and then all of a sudden we're on the field and like the field's perfectly clear and it's like barely snow
yeah,
type of thing.
yeah,
So it's like it's hard
yeah,
to kind of make that determination right now because just because of like how weather reports always go. But I think being on this side of a touchdown, it makes me like the Dolphins. I could see this just being a touchdown game.
yeah,
Definitely a little concerned with how the Dolphins offense has looked in the last 2 weeks because it just feels like, because this offense is so reliant on timing, it feels like maybe teams are putting more of an emphasis on trying to disrupt that timing, whether it's, bumping somebody at the line or like I know last week
hmm
what Chargers, right? They were dropping linebackers back and kind of trying to
yeah,
disrupt over the middle. But that's why I
yeah. I
feel like
think they talked in that game about that. They actually said like I think it's like was it like 18 to 20 yards out is kind of the sweet spot of
yeah,
where the Dolphins like to complete their passes. And so the Chargers were actually dropping their linebackers back far enough to get enough depth that they could kind of eliminate that area of the field.
yeah.
Which to your point, just disrupts the timing of the offense there. So
Yeah,
that's
but
interesting.
I think the big thing is that I just feel like we're maybe at like the overreaction point when it comes to the Dolphins, and then also with the weather, right?
Hmm.
Because you always see, like whether it's Buffalo or Lambeau or any of these
Yeah,
places, Tom Brady in New England, it's like you hear, oh, they're in the snow. This is where they live, and it's all them. So like they naturally kind of get that bias towards it.
yeah,
On Action Network, 73% of the tickets are on Buffalo, so that's a pretty heavy public favorite there. Only
hmm
53% of the money as well. That's kind of what plays into me thinking there's a little bit of an overreaction there too.
yeah, yeah,
It's not the most confident pick I've ever had.
yeah, yeah,
But for me, it's that if we're taking a side, I'd rather go on the side of getting the points.
yeah.
Just because of that. Because like these are two good teams. Miami did beat them earlier in the season. Um,
Hmm.
I think at some point they do right the ship, and yeah, I
Yeah.
just feel like with how they've looked the last 2 weeks, and then of course with the snow and Buffalo kind of getting that bias there, um, I like the underdog.
Wasn't there a game? I feel like there's also been, was it Bills Colts where it was like they like didn't even score until the fourth quarter or something, and then like they had to go to OT. Yeah, McCoy scored an OT, but it was like 13-7. Like
Yeah.
just like incredibly low scoring, you
Yeah,
know.
it's like the way I look at it is like either the snow is so bad that it's just going to be so low scoring that I'd rather not have more than a touchdown favorite, or it's
Yeah,
just not going to be that bad at all. And then it's like, all right, now we just have Dolphins Bills, and we're getting 7.5 points with the Dolphins, and they're able to operate their offense and not be hindered
yeah,
by the weather.
yeah,
And I mean, Miami, they have like the Shanahan rushing schemes and everything like that. So it's like they're definitely well equipped to try and play the game on the ground. And also, it's like, all right, if they have to play it closer to the line of scrimmage and flick it off to Tyreek Hill or hand it off to him on
hmm
a jet sweep or something. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either. So,
yeah,
yeah, to me, it's a few too many points.
yeah. Do we do you think it's a pass?
I mean, yeah, like I said, it's not. I don't know if it's necessarily a top five for me, so it's not like a love or anything. But I mean, I'm sure 820 comes around tonight. I'm gonna be taking it. So.
I'm sure. I'm sure for your own individual ticket.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's definitely not a love. I mean, if that was enough to sway you, it could always be, if we're looking for a fifth pick or something, it could always sneak in.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we could definitely keep looking for more.
Okay. All right. Let's keep looking. All right. Next game, you get the. Well, I think this game, the Commanders and Giants, did this get
It must have gotten
flexed?
flexed because, yeah, I mean, they
Yeah,
always list their spreads in order, and then for this one, it's
but it's the night game, so it must have been flexed.
yeah.
Okay, so you got the Commanders at home laying 4.5 against the Giants. A few things I pulled out: Daniel Jones 9-4 ATS, won an underdog against the NFC East. Heineke rolling, which I feel like we've been saying for a few weeks now. 11-3-1 ATS in the past 15 starts. 6-1-1 in his past 8 games. Giants do seem to have been stumbling a bit. These teams did play a couple weeks ago to a tie. We covered. But familiar opponent, comparable on paper. Um, Even though this game's now in Washington, I mean, also just knowing again, like that, they played to a draw a couple weeks ago. Like, I like the Giants getting 4.5 here. I feel like these two teams are similarly matched. I think it's another close game. I'd rather get the points than lay them. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I like the Giants to cover and to win. Yeah, I think it's interesting how the Commanders are coming off the bye, and that tie was their last game, so they're technically playing the Giants 2 weeks in a row. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's exactly what you said. Just common opponent, divisional thing. Give me the points on that side.
Yeah.
I really just don't. I'm not a big believer in the Commanders. I mean, they definitely got that boost from Heineke coming in, and yeah, they're 3-0-1, straight up, and 3-1 against the spread in their last four. So they were playing well, and the Giants, they're pretty much the opposite, right? 0-3-1, and then 2-2 against the spread. I just feel like two teams. I think this is kind of finding its level here. I like the Giants here to get a win
Yeah.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're
Okay.
a hot start. Like I have a hard time seeing a total collapse from New York, and all of a sudden becoming like a 500 team.
Well, I think too. I mean, I was looking at the NFC standings, looking, specifically at like the teams that are in the hunt. I mean, it's going to take even more of an epic collapse for them to miss the playoffs, I think. Like
Yeah.
right now, it seems like that NFC East is in pretty solid position to have all four of those teams make the playoffs. Like it's going to take a lot for them. Even with the Lions, as hot as they've been, like they still have an uphill battle to make the playoffs.
Mhm.
So it's yeah, I mean, Giants are still in. So all right. Next game. Saints at home laying 4 against the Falcons. The Falcons have moved away from Marcus Mariota. They're now going to go with, is it Desmond Ritter?
Yeah.
Um, which I guess not surprising. Considering not obviously they don't judge their players based on how they perform against the spread, but the trend is bad for the Falcons. They started the season 6-0 ATS. They've been 1-5 since. I My handicap on this game, I just wrote, I don't know. These I view these as two bad teams. You got a quarterback who hasn't really shown me a lot in Andy Dalton. You got a new guy stepping in who I really have no idea what he has to offer. I'm just not really sure how to handicap this game. This was just a pass for me.
Yeah. If anything, I'm taking the points at the Falcons. I feel like Ritter can
Yeah,
maybe give them a little bit of a boost. I think it's definitely an
yeah,
opportunity for him to come in and show what he's got, and maybe buy himself the starting job next year, or maybe he stinks and the Falcons say, all right, we
yeah,
have to get in our quarterback next year as well.
yeah,
I always find it interesting when guys like Mariota get benched, and then a week later it's announced he's having like arthroscopic knee surgery or something. It's like, what the hell is he doing out there to begin with?
Well, he might. I wonder if I had to guess. It's probably one of those things where like the knee was fine, but they've probably also told him like you're not going to quarterback the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So he's probably just like, you know what, then I'm just going to get a surgery that I probably needed to or wanted to get anyway. I'm just going to get it done now because you're basically telling me I'm done.
Yeah.
And it's, an injury to Ritter away from like me maybe playing again, but even then, like I don't care,
Yeah, and it's a lost season too. It's like, let that. I
Yeah,
mean, of course,
yeah.
like I think a guy like him wants to stay out there and just get a little bit more tape on, try and get himself a contract next year. But at the same time, it's like, what the
Be
hell?
easier.
I want
Yeah.
to be able to walk in 20 years as well. So
Walk in 20 years, and also like, maybe I have a more, this could have been talking to his agent too. Like maybe I have a little bit more of a compelling story to tell when I say like I got a brand new knee,
yeah, yeah,
I'm in better health than I was last year,
yeah,
and what you saw on tape, that sort of thing,
yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I think this is one, if we are looking for that fifth game, we could come back and reconsider the Falcons +4. I agree with your note. Like if you're going to take a side, take the points, play off the boost. So I think that's totally fair. I just, in terms of confidence picking, it's not high on my list.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Next game. This is a fun one. Whether we pick this game or not, I'm just kind of excited to see how this game plays out. But you got the Lions going to New York to play the Jets. It's a pick 'em. Goff, second most profitable QB ATS since November 1st of last year, 14-5 against the spread. But he is only 29, 32, and 2 outdoors. Perhaps his Achilles heel. You got Zach Wilson back in a QB for the Jets. Sounds like Mike White has consulted with
Like
every. What's that?
I think it was like 10 doctors. He just like kept going
10.
doctor after doctor to try and
He's
find
just
someone.
looking for one. He's like, and then I read last night that he then even asked the question, "Do you even have the right to tell me that I'm not medically cleared?" Like
That's
he's
like me when I found out my hearing, I had the hearing problem. And I was like in the doctor's office convinced. I was telling mom, I was like convinced that it was like a conspiracy against me. I was like saying when they did the hearing test, I was like, I could hear her breathing over the microphone when I was supposed to be listening with my left ear. It's like they were
yeah,
sabotaging me. I was like, I was just trying to call bullshit. I was in such denial that I was, impaired. And I think he's kind of in the same spot where he's like, my rib feels fine,
yeah,
whatever the hell it is. Like, it feels fine. So just like, let me go.
yeah. Um, sorry, I just got an email from Nutting. He said, "Good morning, fine sir. Good news is we made our picks this morning because they've been very bad the last couple of weeks."
Yeah.
He goes, "Bad news is we picked the Bills. I'm not sure if that'll work now, as I didn't realize they play today." I love these guys. They like zero awareness of
Yeah.
like, and yet they're beating us in this
Yeah.
contest, which is just
That's how
infuriating.
it goes.
Um, all right, I'm just gonna reply to him. Early deadline was for the first game only, since that game is tonight. For submission works. Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry, back on track, back on this game. All right, Lions Jets. Who do you got?
So I feel like the Lions are maybe a square pick. I feel like, and it doesn't look like there's any overwhelming rush to bet them in terms of tickets or anything, but I just feel like you see it, you say Zach Wilson stinks, bet against him, all that stuff. They were winning games with Zach Wilson at quarterback. It got ugly at the end, especially when they had to play the Pats twice and that type of thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, they were winning games. It was definitely despite Zach Wilson, they were managing to win these games, but I feel like maybe the Jets are an interesting pick here just because you see that and it's maybe too easy of a knee-jerk analysis to say Zach Wilson stinks, he's back, Lions have been
Yep.
playing great. This feels like a spot where the Lions maybe they just like you said, Goff playing what was it, outdoors that he struggles.
Yep.
He just comes in, people kind of overlook little things like that. Nobody says, well, wait, why the hell are the Lions a pick 'em? against
Hmm.
these shitty Jet. Well, I mean, I guess they're not shitty, but they against a shitty quarterback. It just doesn't
Yeah.
feels like they shouldn't be a pick 'em, and I don't think that there's been any movement. It's not like it came out as a pick 'em, assuming Mike White plays, and then he's out, and then all of a sudden it shoots up to like a 3-point, 4-point spread or something. So I feel like because of that, it's like I don't know if contrarian is necessarily the word to use here, but I feel like you just got to kind of go against that knee jerk reaction and like that itch to rush to bet the Lions, and you got to say, yeah, maybe I should be looking at the Jets here.
Yeah, I asked myself that question too of like, is it too square of a pick? That was probably like the only thing that gave me hesitancy. I mean, the Goff numbers outdoors, it does make me wonder, like, is he kind of walking into an ambush a little
Yeah.
bit?
It's like that defense can still make it. That defense that the Jets have can still make it happen. They can still play
Oh
very
yeah. I
physical
mean,
ball.
you got to figure like, Sauce Gardner is going to be matched up against Amon-Ra. So, that's going to be a really interesting matchup. And if Goff, suddenly doesn't have the ability to like, just feed him as consistently, as he normally does, like, what's that going to mean? I mean,
I
might
almost
mean,
want to say it might not even be. It might actually not even be Sauce on Amon Ra because I think Amon Ra he plays a lot more in the slot, and I think I want to say the Jets like their slot cornerback is like one of like the best slot cornerbacks in the league or something. So they might
mm-hmm,
stick him on him, and then either way, it's like a pretty shitty matchup for Amon Ra. And then if you want to,
pretty
I
bad
don't
for
know how much
Goff.
Jameson Williams is going to play, but Sauce can definitely be used to limit him, and all
Yep.
types of shit. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. It feels like everything's pulling me towards betting the Lions, and it's like, no, 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 I got to be looking this way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. But at the same time, like, we've also had a couple teams. I mean, I think the run's up, but like, the Titans were a team where we were just kind of like, just keep riding it, keep riding
Yeah,
it, keep riding it until they don't, Um, so, I've kind of looked at the Lions as a team as like, do we just keep riding that wave
yeah,
until it goes out? But, then there is that element of like, there are a number of signs that seem to be pointing that like maybe this is the week. So we try and get out in front of it.
yeah.
Um, are we bold? I don't want to say bold enough, but like, are we bold enough to actually just go with the Jets on this? And
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, the Lions have at least covered their last five, and they've won
yes, they have.
the
Yep.
last five. So it's like this just feels like that letdown spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Well, let's mark it as a like for now.
Yeah.
And then just kind of, in terms of confidence, see where we're at with how many picks we have at the
And
end.
for what it's worth, I like I give Salah the edge in the coaching matchup as well. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
Campbell, it sounded like he didn't even know that Penei Sewell was going to be getting that throw.
Oh, Dan Campbell.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
you
He said he was distracted by the crowd.
yeah, doing the wave.
Yeah. Like, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, he's just like us.
Yeah,
But at the same time, you're like, I don't know, you maybe don't want to admit that,
yeah.
like,
That's like the thing that I feel like I continue to learn as I get older is like, when you grow up, right? Like you always think like the teachers have like their lives together, right? Like the teachers are like
yeah,
citizens and all that. And then I, go to college with people that are becoming teachers and I see them out at night and I'm like, these are teaching America's youth. Like, and I don't think that this just started happening. Like, I'm sure my teachers in elementary school and in high school were out drinking and doing whatever. And, I feel like it's the same thing with like coaches and stuff. Like you always assume like this guy got an NFL head coaching job. He must know everything there is to know. And he must be a perfect football mind. And then you get guys like Nathaniel Hackett and you realize it's like, no, he like genuinely is underqualified for this job and he shouldn't do it. And not that I think
yeah,
Dan Campbell's unqualified, but I do think it's like he's not he's an imperfect human. I think he's still like a musclehead
yeah,
dummy. And yeah, like he's out here looking around and it's like fourth down and they just booked a play to throw to their offensive lineman and he's got no clue what's going on.
yeah. And he's watching the wave.
Yeah. And
It's awesome.
but I
It's
think there's
unbelievable.
two teams that they've kind of rallied around their toughness, and I think that's really fueled by their
Yeah,
coaches. But I give Salah the edge in that coaching matchup, and
yeah,
I don't think it's a
yep,
slight edge either. I think Salah is a very, very good coach, and maybe I think Campbell's more of like a locker room rah rah type coach, and I think there's
yeah,
a good spot for that in sports as well. But I think when
yep,
it comes to also getting your guys up and then also being like schematically really good, that's where Salah
yeah,
thrives.
yeah.
So Yeah,
Yep.
the more I talk about it, the more I really like this Jets pick.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Marked it as a like. Next game, we get the Chiefs and the Texans. They're in Houston. Chiefs are laying 14. Mahomes 1-7 against the spread as a 7+ point favorite on the road. Texans are now without Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins, and it's Damian Pierce, right?
Yeah.
I saw a lot of trends about just kind of beware of the line with matchups in which you have a team with a win percentage of 65% or higher against another team with a win percentage of 25% or lower.
Yeah.
It seems like it's kind of a classic overlook spot for the team, obviously with the higher win percentage. Often that team with the lower win percentage comes in and plays very competitively. I do think though Texans were in a very similar spot last week against the Cowboys,
Yeah.
and I think they emptied the tank in that game. And now they're coming in even more undermanned.
Yeah.
Losing their top running back. So kind of despite Mahomes' lack of success in these types of spots, like very specific type of spots, I do lean the Chiefs here, laying the points. I just feel like you've got a team that is maybe now running on E. Gave it everything they had last week. They were in a prime spot to win that game, end up losing that game. And now you got the Chiefs coming in, and now they're down another key starter. I lean Chiefs on this.
Yeah, I've been kind of back and forth because, like you said, it does feel like a classic spot where you should take the underdog, but it's pretty much exactly everything that you just said. Where it just feels like I don't know. I mean, the Chiefs, I don't necessarily love it, but I could be talked into loving it because I feel like it could be like a 17 to 20 point win or something where, I think maybe very similar to that Rams game that we took the Chiefs a couple weeks ago where, it's an absolute sweat till the very end. They do end up covering. Maybe it'll be
Yep.
too close for comfort. And, maybe there are 5 more that we like more than that. But at the same time, I think getting the Chiefs at exactly 2 touchdowns, I have a hard
Yeah.
time seeing it go under that.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
it does maybe it is just maybe we're walking straight into a trap or something, but yeah, it was one of those where you see that and you say, maybe it is just too many points.
Yeah.
Chiefs are
Yeah.
bad against the spread, all that stuff, but I don't know. I think that this could just be like a very casual blowout where it's
Yeah.
not like a track meet up and down the field, but it's like, yeah, okay, the Chiefs, they drive down, they get a touchdown. And then the Texans go on a long drive and they stall out at the 50-yard line. And then it's just like the Chiefs continue to drive down and it always results in points. That's how I could see
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
it could
Yep.
be a
I
very
agree.
slow burn for the cover, but at the same time, I like the Chiefs getting them, at 14 or less.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. All right. Next game, Eagles Bears in Chicago. Eagles laying 9. What do you got here?
I like the Bears here. Bears coming off the bye. I don't know. I just feel like, with Philly, they have been covering these spreads lately. It's not like it doesn't feel like we're seeing any type of regression, any type of complacency, but I don't know. That 9 points just kind of stood out to me with the Bears. I feel like, it's kind of an interesting matchup with Fields versus Hurts, and who knows if that Fields magic continues, if this is really legit, or if it's one of those where maybe the bye week wasn't good for him and it kind of killed his momentum or something. But he did come back off of that missed week with the injury, still put up a bunch of points, I believe, right? So I guess there's not too much of a fear there with momentum being lost or anything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
I
It's kind of like I feel like I could be talked into either side, but I kind of lean Bears with the points here.
Yeah. I was leaning Eagles. It's not a strong lean or a like. I don't think I'd want to take the Bears side in part because I think with how well this Eagles team is playing, I just don't necessarily want to find myself on the opposite side.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a little bit of recency bias, coming off watching them blow out the Giants last week, and we were sitting there with Giants +7 on our ticket. And so that there's a little bit of a sting there. But I mean, this is right now, this is the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
They have an explosive offense. Their quarterback is the favorite to win the MVP.
Yeah.
And they're going up against a team whose bad defense was gutted at the trade deadline and has nothing left.
Yeah.
And we're also talking about a quarterback in Fields who, from a fantasy perspective, is dynamic, came back from injury, played well again. He's coming off a bye, but in that same breath, like we've talked about him a bunch, he doesn't win, he doesn't really cover.
Yeah.
So it's like he has these great games, but at the end of the game, it's kind of the same outcome every time.
Yeah.
So I think if we're picking a side, I definitely want to be on the Eagles side. But I don't know that I'm going to die on that hill either. You know?
I feel like I think I've kind of been swayed because it is true though. The more I think about it, where it's like that Bears defense is just very bad, and maybe they've had the bye week to really plan things out and come into it. And, I don't know, maybe they'll be able to keep it close for most of the game or something. But yeah, at the same time, it's like we've just seen it time and time again now with these Eagles teams where it's like it feels like this is the week where they're going to get upset or fall off or something, and they end up just like shitting on the team. I mean, of course, that Packers game was much more back and forth than maybe they wanted with how it started. But 25-point win against the Titans, 26-point win against the Giants. And they seem like a team that just likes to stay on top of it and just keep it going. I don't think they're looking to, hold up and really lose any momentum either. So I think I've kind of been talked in. If you like the Eagles and you want to add it, we could put it on. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, I'm going to mark them as a like. All right, next game. We may not have to overcomplicate this one, but I'm really, really interested to see what side you're on. You got the Panthers at home, laying 3 against the Steelers. Is the handicap as simple as we just continue to ride Steve Wilkes and the Panthers? What do you got?
I mean, that's kind of what I was going to say, and this could be our new team for this stretch.
Yes.
To do it.
Yep.
Wilkes, he's getting a lot of positive momentum in terms of getting the job next year. And that was something that I had talked about when he first took over, where it's like, I just felt like he was so overlooked based off of like a really rocky, year in Arizona. And, we did all that, weeks ago, but it's like, it sounds like he's really getting the players to play for him.
Yep.
And they're playing tough. And, of course,
and they're in it. They're in it because of how
more high scoring than I think we were anticipating. I think we were, because we're seeing them allow 15 points, 13 points, 10 points. And then, of course, they allowed 24 to Seattle last week. So they weren't able to necessarily lock down. But, I mean, this is still a good defense. I believe it sounds like Trubisky's going to be starting, right? So because of that, I like the Panthers to win this one. And, of course, I prefer to get them as underdogs. And maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's a little scary that they're now favorites. Maybe that could be something that we keep an eye on. But at the same time, I like the Panthers to keep it rolling. They have the division, they have a shot at the division right now. So they have a lot to play for.
So if they win this week and the Bucks lose to the Bengals, which the Bucks are 3.5-point dogs in that game, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. They also have the tiebreaker over the Bucks right now because they beat them 21-3 earlier this year.
Yeah.
They could be the division leaders at the end of the day on Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, they're right there. I like I said earlier, I just kind of asked the question of, is this our new Titans? And I think they are. I think this is a team that we just ride it out until we feel like it's dead.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to mark them as a like. All right, next game. Got the Cowboys and Jaguars in Jacksonville. Cowboys are laying 4. What do you got on this game?
I kind of lean the Jags here. Jags honestly have an outside shot at the division as well. If the wheels really fall off, and it's going to take a lot of big wins for them, but it's also a little bit of a look ahead spot for Dallas here. They're playing Philly next week.
Yep.
I'm always a little weary with the Jags just because they're still young, they can still be a little inconsistent, but it feels like Trevor Lawrence is kind of having his real moment right now and starting to really have a breakout. And instead of just showing the flashes of the prospect that he was, it seems like he's really starting to put it together and put these teams on his back. And I mean, even like fantasy wise, he's putting up a ton of points with, not much like rushing, like straight up just passing, throwing,
Yeah.
300 yards.
There,
Yeah.
that is an interesting pick in terms of what are the odds to get them for the division right now? Do you know?
I saw him yesterday at like 5-1.
That's an interesting spot because obviously they just beat the Titans 36-22. They're going to play each other in the season finale. They're 2 games back. And so all they really have to do is be a game back heading into that last game.
Yeah.
And if they win the division. Because they'll have the head to head because they'll be 2-0 head to head. So they really only need to close the gap by 1 game between now and that last week of the regular season. So that's a really interesting spot for them. And I mean, I'll tell you, it does feel like the wheels are falling off. I love Vrabel, but it feels like those wheels are falling off.
Yeah, and
they've
the
got
big thing, and we can talk about them in a second too, but it's like I just feel like with the Titans, I honestly feel like the absence of Traylon Burks is hurting them right now. It's just like
yes,
they just don't have like that dynamic pass catching playmaker.
yeah,
And I actually love their tight end, Chiggy. I can't even say
yeah,
it, but
yeah,
I like
yeah,
him a
yeah,
lot because he's like it's actually funny when you look at like the measurables, he's like the exact same size as Derrick Henry, but now he's a pass catcher
yeah,
on the offensive line.
yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like the Titans themselves are really struggling, without that downfield ability of Traylon Burks right now. And oh, look who it is! Hello, Miss
Look
Cleo.
at this, Leo.
Hello,
Can you say hi to your uncle?
hello, my
Can
beautiful
you say
niece.
hi to Uncle Kieran? Can you say
Hello,
hi? That's
hello.
Uncle Kieran. Uncle Kieran saying hello. Do you want to get down?
Hello, Miss Cleo.
You want to get down? Okay. All right. My love. Yeah, let's I think I can go Jags here.
Yeah,
Um I like that note too about so funny. We were talking about how down the Titans are. I thought for a second that we were talking about the Titans game,
yeah,
which we're going to get to in a second. But yeah, I like your point too of like could be a look ahead spot for the Cowboys coming off a real flat performance against the Texans. They got out of there with the win. But at the same time, like now they go on the road. And you got a team that's playing some pretty motivated football, so it could be an interesting spot.
yeah. It's just like
Jags.
If the Jags want to try and win this division, they pretty much have to win this game. So
Yes. Yeah.
maybe
Yep.
it's not necessarily the best analysis there, but it's like if they're gonna do it, they got to win this game. So maybe we should just bet on that and see.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Next game is a train wreck. You got the Broncos at home laying 2.5 against the Cardinals. Neither team has their starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Um, this game completely both of these teams disgusted me coming into the week.
Yeah.
They disgust me further with both starting QBs being out. I don't know. It's just a pass for me, just out of like pure disdain for the game and in the situation in the spot.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you have a read on it. If there's something that you're really liking in terms of either side.
Yeah.
What do you think on this?
I actually, I like the Cardinals a pretty decent amount here. Simply just, I'd rather have Colt McCoy than
Yeah.
Brett Rippon is playing, right?
Well, and I guess too, like, I mean, they still have like a viable run game,
Yeah.
Like James Conner came out of that game healthy, right?
He
They
had
can
a
still
great
move
game
the
last
foot.
week, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
So they can move the ball. I think too, like, I mean, I think Colt McCoy is a professional, but at the same time, like, he wasn't preparing to be the number one QB last week.
Yeah.
Murray was out on the first drive, and then all of a sudden he gets, kind of thrust into that game. So, perhaps there's an element too of just like, not being fully prepared as sharp as he might have been had he, known coming into the week that he's going to be the starter. But now he's had a full, it's a short week, but he's had a week to prepare as the starter, knowing he's going to be that. So, and I mean, the Broncos are just, I mean, what a sad state of affairs over there. And the last time Wilson was not the starter, we did take the Broncos side.
It was against the Jets, right?
And against the Jets, and it was a very disappointing, very frustrating to watch that game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could be swayed to that Cardinals side.
Yeah, it's one I kind of just like it because I think it's like such like a wonky pick that it makes me like it more and more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I mean, it's kind of like propaganda, like Hard Knocks, that type of thing. But I was watching like a little bit a couple weeks ago, and it was just kind of seeing Colt McCoy like in the quarterback room and at the meetings. Like it feels like he's kind of gearing up for like a coaching career when he's done playing. And I kind of I like guys like that because like I think that he's able to like come in and like you said, he's a professional and be prepared and just kind of like manage that offense to a win. And yeah, I just think that I just think Arizona has more to work with here, and because of that, I like them, especially as dogs.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Mark that as a like. Next game, Chargers and Titans. They're in LA. Chargers are laying 3. Kind of alluded to it and talking about some of the other games, but is it time to let go of the Titans? Is it time to say goodbye? I do like the Chargers here. I think they're getting healthier. As much as I kind of dislike, what I've been seeing out of the Titans the last few games, they've lost 3 straight and appear to be leaking oil. The Chargers appear to be getting healthier. Keenan Allen's back. He's had a couple really solid weeks. Back-to-back games. Mike Williams back. He was excellent last week. Plus, they've got, just a ton of weapons with, Josh Palmer, Gerald Everett's back. Gives them another option out of the tight end position. And obviously they've got Austin Eckler. So, Herbert's got all of his weapons. And I think, I think obviously Derrick Henry's gonna, he's gonna get his, but this passing game for the Titans just seems to be bad. I think, you said it earlier. They seem to be really impacted with Traylon Burke still out. Ryan Tannehill's been turning it over. He coughed it up a bunch of times last week. I think this Titans secondary is weak. I could see the Chargers receivers just kind of dominating in that aspect of the game. So I like the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of a pass just because, like you said, it does look like the Titans are like the wheels are falling off with them, but at the same time, it also feels like this could be one of those where we finally fade them and then they just completely burn us because like they are still capable of having that big game where Derrick Henry just dominates the run game and goes for like 200 yards and a touchdown. And especially coming off of last week, he was 17 for 121 and a touchdown. So he was playing well. And and at the same time, it's like I always have a hard time trusting the Chargers and Staley. It's like every the last 2 years now, it's been like, oh yeah, they got this great team. They got Justin Herbert, he's this great young quarterback, all that stuff, and then they go 500.
Well, and it feels, I still like the Chargers, but I will say to your point, given where the standings are right now, it also feels like they're heading towards another situation like last year where they're going to go into the final week of the season and they're going to be right on that bubble. And they're going to find a way to play themselves out of the playoffs. Like they're right there. And they have a relatively easy schedule. So, this is kind of this is going to be an interesting litmus test for, I think, the future of Brandon Staley, because you got the Titans this week who are, coming off 3 straight losses. Then you got the Colts. You got a Rams team who, despite last week and that incredible comeback with Baker, still a bad football team given the current state of affairs. And they're not exactly playing to win anything. They're out of it. And then you get the Broncos. So they could easily win out, go 4-0, finish 11-6, make the playoffs. But you can't help but feel like they're going to be in a battle with the Patriots at the end of this thing. And you're gonna be watching, split screen, and the Pats are going to be the guys that get it.
And I'm looking at that Charger schedule too. The teams that they have played, and just seeing, straight up losses against the spread losses and stuff, and kind of who these teams are that they're not able to win and cover against. And they lost by a touchdown to the Raiders, and of course Devontae Adams had a huge game, but Josh Jacobs had 144 and a touchdown. They did they lose outright? They beat the Cardinals by 1 point. James Conner had 120 yards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it does feel like and I think that's kind of been the thing with the Chargers the last couple of years too, right? Hasn't that kind of been? Remember, we were like betting against them for like 3 or 4 straight weeks because they were playing teams that were able to cap the big plays on defense, and then they were also able to dominate the run, right? I remember we took I think it was like the Browns were underdogs in LA, and then it was like a great pick by us. But then it's like teams that they're losing.
That's
against,
right. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it seems like they do continue to just struggle against teams that are able to like dominate on the ground and stuff like that. So it's like, I can see this maybe being a little close, and maybe they still come away with the cover and win by like a touchdown, but I just it's like maybe too uncomfortable for me to take either side here because I think it's going to be a 1-score game. I just don't know which side it's going.
Which side, yeah. Okay. Let's set it as a pass then. All right, 3 games left. Next one, we got the Bengals in Tampa Bay. Bengals laying 3.5. Brady is 8-3 straight up, 10-1 against the spread as a home dog in his career. Bengals are on a roll. They've covered 5 straight. First time they've done that since 2011. Bucks are 0-4 against the spread against the AFC this year. I mean, look, I think on paper you just kind of look at the trends, and it's kind of hard not to ask, like, how do you not go with the Bengals here? The Bucks just look bad. The Bengals are rolling. I guess you could make the argument. Brady is back home. Maybe this is kind of that spot for the Bengals where they have a little bit of a hiccup. The Bucks also need to win. They can't get too comfortable. We talked about it in the context of the Panthers game. If they lose this week and the Panthers win, all of a sudden the Bucks are not in the playoffs. I don't know. What's your read on this game?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do fear that maybe the Bengals are like way too obvious of a pick here. It does seem like there's some big sharp action on Tampa Bay. I see right now Tampa Bay's getting 28% of the bets, but 60% of the money. It does feel like a recipe for like a Bengals to just run the ball up and down the field and kill them. But at the same time, I'm like, only 3.5 though. I don't know about T. Higgins if he's going to be able to play. Last week he was like a secret late scratch or something. It's I saw a lot of people pissed. Because they had Higgins in fantasy. It's one of those where you're told, oh, he's playing, you got to start the guy, and then he gets 0 run. I don't know if I'm confident enough to actually back the Bucks, but I feel like maybe that's the pick in this game.
It's
like the Tampa's making it tough to back them, but it feels like
they are. I know. It's just a matter of like, I feel like because didn't you sent me something too? It's like, I think their last 11 game, the Bucks are like 1-10 against the spread.
Yeah,
like they do not cover.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've backed them a number of times this year, so like we've been burned quite a few times.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we do it?
I mean, maybe we could.
Is it a contrarian pick?
Maybe we could set it aside and come back to it, see how we're feeling.
Yeah.
But
okay. All right. Let's go. Next game. Patriots -1 in Las Vegas against the Raiders. Belichick versus McDaniels. Pat stayed out west, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think they went right to Vegas to get ready for this game. They are on a short week. I mean, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, but it's impossible not to love the Pats in this spot. I love, obviously, Belichick, against McDaniels. I think Belichick's the alpha here. I do think that their pass rush is going to be a real problem with the Carr, and really forcing him to, make mistakes, throw some really bad balls. So I think it's just a great spot for the D. to create opportunities for them to shorten the field for the offense as well. And, indoors against that Raiders defense, I can also, see this week the Pats having some success moving the ball on offense. I like the spot for them, but what do you think?
Yeah, I feel the same way, of course.
Yeah.
Mac Jones, I've been kind of joking around just because it's such a small sample size, but he is covering these passing yard props inside,
Mm,
playing in the dome
yeah.
and stuff like that. So obviously he crushed it in Minnesota. I think he was maybe 20, 30 yards over it last week in Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think Mac has looked really good. And, I still think the play calling is infuriating. I still think there's a severe lack of
Yeah.
talent in the receiving core. But I watching him play and watching him drop back and stand in the pocket, I feel like I'm seeing more zip on his throws.
Yeah.
I think he's gaining more and more confidence back, still coming off of that injury and everything. It felt like, maybe he was hitting rock bottom, when he came back,
Yeah.
the Bears game and everything like that. But ever since then, I've been really commenting on every week. It's like, even in that Jets game where it was very windy and everybody gave Zach Wilson the pass. It was windy, couldn't really throw the ball, but Mac Jones threw it like, 40 times and had like 240 yards. And, the big
Yeah.
thing with Mac is that he just doesn't get passing touchdowns. And I think that's because there's a lack of playmakers in the passing game there. But he still gets the yardage. He still gets the completions. I like it. I mean, I don't know what the deal is with Ramondre Stevenson. I don't know if he's going to be playing or not. Dame Harris just got announced officially out.
Oh, we did? Okay.
I'm not seeing. I don't know. I just pulled up an injury report. I'm not seeing Ramondre on it. Let me see. I'll look it up right now. But yeah, I mean, I just lean it. We've done that before. We just kind of take the alpha coach, right? And all right, Ramondre was limited on Friday.
Okay.
Even then, I mean, Pierre Strong looked really good. Kevin Harris,
The
a lot of people
run game. Yeah. The whole run game looked good.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, Kevin Harris looked mostly good on just that touchdown drive. If you look at overall his yards per carry, he was like 3.5 or something. But it's like Pierre Strong was like big play after big play, and they gave him a target or two. Yeah, I know he got a reception and stuff. So I think that they can keep it rolling. I think the Pats, they're definitely looking to make the playoffs right now. They're in the playoff spot right now. So I like them to keep it rolling, and especially at a pick 'em. I mean, maybe we're just getting burned by our bias or something.
Maybe, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Last game, you got the Packers and the Rams in Green Bay on Monday night. Packers laying 7 against the Baker Mayfield led Rams. What do you got on this one?
I like the Packers here. Coming off the bye at home, I feel like maybe the Rams are getting a little extra love because of the injection of life that Baker Mayfield gave him. But I think that's kind of just what Baker does. I think he's like 3-0 when he comes off the bench.
Yeah.
He's able to come in and provide that spark, but I don't know. I just feel like it's one of those where they weren't able to actually prepare for Baker Mayfield. I'm sure going into it, they said, hey, let's keep an eye on it. But he signed with them on like Tuesday. John Wolford did get the start, and then after one drive, Baker came in. So I can't imagine there's too much game planning from who the hell did they play last week? I don't even remember. But
who the Rams?
Yeah.
Oh, the Raiders.
Oh, that's right. I was gonna
our beloved
our
beloved Raiders.
Like I was doing the Silvio talking about Ralph, where it's like, yeah, he did the what did he call
what was it again? Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just like the Packers and Lambeau here, and coming off the bye, and Christian Watson is such a stud right now. I still feel like the Rams are checked out. I think that they had to like kind of give their fans or just give, I don't know who, but they had to give somebody just a win to kind of hold them over and do that. But they're still a bad team. They're still a losing team. I think the Packers are better here. And I mean, maybe it's, we're not just, it's not a pick 'em here. It is, 7. That is a sizable number, but I don't know. I like Rodgers coming off the bye here. And I think that it could be, maybe a little bit of a blowout. I mean, for what it's worth, looking back, they played last year twice. They played once, and I guess it was 2 years ago. So it's just 2 seasons that overlapped. But Packers beat the Rams 32-18. Packers beat the Rams 36-28.
Teaspoons, tablespoons.
So Aaron Rodgers has been beating up on the Rams historically here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Packers here. I mean, maybe it's not a love just because it is a big touchdown number, but
Yeah. Yeah.
the Packers.
All right. Market is a lean. I mean, we got a lot of likes in
Yeah.
here. So I think just, in terms of the process of narrowing things down, this game may get cut, but we can mark it as a
Yeah.
lean. All right, so let's recap what we got with in terms of like strong likes. I have us with the Rams plus 2.5 against at Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants plus 4.5 at Washington. The Jets and a pick'em at home against Detroit. Chiefs laying 14 at Houston. Eagles laying 9 at Chicago. Panthers -3 at home against Pittsburgh. Jags at home catching 4 against the Cowboys. Cardinals getting 2.5 in Denver. The Patriots laying 1 in Las Vegas. And then we had a couple leans. Dolphins plus 7.5 in Buffalo tonight. Falcons getting 4 in New Orleans. Bucks getting 3.5 at home against Cincy, and then the Packers laying 7 at home on Monday night against the Rams.
Yep.
In terms of like, I think auto locks. I think the Panthers feel like an auto lock for us.
Yeah.
Feel like we feel pretty good about just continuing to ride that wave. I feel like we were feeling pretty good about the Jets and the Ravens picks.
Yeah.
Would you dispute those, or
No.
feel pretty good on those? Anything else from that board jump out at you in terms of like wanting to take it? Patriots? Like, do we just accept our bias and trust the read?
I mean, there's a few.
I mean,
that
look, the Patriots were on our board last week. We didn't take them.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a good read on that. But what else did you like?
I mean, I really like our underdog picks. I'm also counting the Jets as that, as a pick 'em.
Yeah.
I actually think the Jets are like +1 now. But
Yeah.
I like that Giants pick. I like that Jags pick. I really do like that Cardinals pick. It's an ugly game, but I feel like they're better prepared to win this battle of the
Yeah. I think I'd rather take the Cardinals over the Jags.
Yeah.
Like I as much as I like the read, there's still in the back of my mind a little bit of, Cowboys, like Super Bowl contender,
Yeah.
coming off a bad performance, have the ability to blow teams out. And we've also seen the Jaguars in letdown spots. I think the Lions was one a couple weeks ago. So they also have the ability to like just suddenly flip a switch and turn it off. So I would say, like, just in terms of matchups and, where the opponent is at too, I think that Cardinals pick, after you talked about it, that one feels a little tastier to me than the Jags.
Yeah.
And then you said you like that Giants pick too. We talked about the Eagles. I know that was one you were like, I feel like I'm getting swayed in that direction. But is that one like just liking the underdogs instead of laying 9, instead of laying 14 on the Chiefs? Kind of skew more towards the dogs in this case.
Yeah, I mean, so what are you thinking for? So are we kind of locked into the Panthers, Jets, Ravens, Cardinals then?
Yeah. Panthers, Jets, Ravens, Cardinals are the 4 that I have kind of bolded. So it's really looking for that last spot. So, we'd be looking at Giants, Chiefs, Eagles,
Pats.
Pats. And then, again, just to recap some of the leans, it was Bucks, Packers, Falcons, Dolphins. But I don't have enough confidence in any of those 4 games that I would want any of them to supersede one of the other likes that we already have on the table.
Yeah. Hmm. It's tough.
Giants plus 4.5 against the team they just tied,
Yeah.
divisional opponent. That's an interesting pick to me, you know.
Yeah.
I do like, I don't know, there's something about leaving the Patriots on the table that I'm like, but I don't know, maybe it's better for us anyway.
Yeah.
You know, kind
Yeah.
of remove ourselves from the bias, you
Uh,
know.
yeah. Like it's almost better to just remove them and
Yeah. And then we feel all
because we might
right,
be right
so
this time, but then the next time, we've also been wrong on them plenty of times as
we
well.
have we have and you're comfortable. I mean, Chiefs minus 14, that's a big number. So I like, as much as I like our read in terms of trying to identify a top five, laying 14 maybe just doesn't feel like a top five pick.
Yeah, 'cause like I said, I feel like it could be a very casual blowout, but it's one of those two where
Yeah,
all of a sudden the Texans
yeah,
get 10 points and you're like, oh shit. Like,
we need 27,
Yeah.
and then Eagles minus 9, comfortable walking away from that.
Yeah, I mean, as we were talking through it, I did start to like it more and more. Like but I do like going underdog heavy on our cards anyways. Uh,
Hmm.
you were reading the stat earlier, like the dogs, they have been playing very well this season.
Yep,
And
yep.
that continued last week as well. So I mean, I like the Giants pick. I mean, it definitely, could be risky with it. I do think it's a one-score game and
Yeah.
end up on the wrong side of it. But I liked how the Giants looked, and PFT was saying how um the Commanders they drew the tie with the Giants. So it's more like the like it was good for the Commanders because they brought it back, and then the Giants, all that. And he was just fucking around, but like
Yeah.
I did feel like they were playing really well against that game, and they kind of they had an opportunity to just win it outright, and they kind of let it slip through their hands. But I think the Giants
Yeah.
have come back, and I just think that Daboll's a really good coach, and I like how they played, even in the games where they've looked bad. They've still felt somewhat competitive. So I like the Giants to come
Hmm.
here, and I do like them to win it outright. So at that point, why wouldn't I take the points?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. So we are going to go. Sorry, I'm just starting to populate our circa entry. All right. So we're going to go Ravens plus 2.5 against the Browns. We're going to go Giants plus 4.5 against the Commanders. We're going to go Jets in a pick 'em at home against the Lions. We're going to go Panthers in the circa. They're minus 2.5 against the Steelers in their home. And then we're going to go Cardinals plus 2.5 at Denver. Those are our 5. Ravens, Giants, Jets, Panthers, Cardinals.
Cool.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. The circa has just been submitted. I acknowledge and submit. So that one's in. I'm going to submit the Westgate now, and then we'll be good to go.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. We'll see you. Have a good one.
Bye.
All right. Later.